I can hear you fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Denny! Josh fucking Denny! Oh, here we go. We're good. Our guest is good. He's coming on, and I love Red Band. Don't send him those clips, please. If you guys get me on Joe Ronstein's show, I'll bring up Rogan Watch, and I'll make sure that he answers to the Wong Wei thing. Okay? Okay, our guest is ready. Sorry. Let me try him again. This is going to be epic. Red Band's also been having... don't say a word yet, guest on the phone. Don't say anything yet till you get your camera working. Just because I want it. Perfect. Okay, stay right there, okay? You can hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Denny! Josh fucking Denny!
It's kind of hard to follow Lala Luis Gomez. That's a pretty big one.
Oh my God, did you just suck in some helium? Why is your voice like that?
I don't know. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, but it sounds all high-pitched. It sounds like you have a high-pitched voice.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why.
Well, it's fucking funny. Anyway, Josh Denny is here. Josh.
How's it going? How's it going, man?
Fucking Denny. And you might know him as a comedian. Some of you know him as a comedian. I know him as a couple other things. You might remember him as Patrick.
And we begin.
You might remember him best as Patrick Melton's doughy sidekick on the Nobody Likes Onion shows in the Los Angeles era of the show. Okay, before Patrick moved to New York City, Josh Denny and him did dozens and dozens, hundreds of dozens, not hundreds of dozens, but did you do 100 shows, do you think? No, not that many.
I think it was pretty close. I think it was somewhere, because it was over the span of 4 years.
You got to call me back right now, because I swear to God, Skype is speeding up the pitch of your voice. I've never seen this before. But your voice sounds like this, and people are going to think that it's a Josh Denny imposter if they listen to the audio version.
Hold on. Is that better?
Yes, you fixed it.
Okay.
What was that?
I don't know. I think it was just a mic setting.
You have a mic setting to make your voice fucking high-pitched?
Apparently so. It didn't sound like
insane.
that when I was listening to it.
Okay. Now, Josh Denny is here.
Yes.
He saw, of course, I'm blocked by Josh Denny on all fronts, and then I get a message on Twitter where I see that Josh Denny has liked some of my Melton Watch posts, and I go, uh-oh, here we go. My enemies, friends are all coming together. And you saw Melton Watch. You messaged me. You reached out. You said it's about time. I've been saying this stuff for years. People don't want to listen to me. And I said, you know what? You're right. Let's hear what Josh has to say about Patrick, because I'm sure you have a lot of stuff to say about him. And we've never really gotten to hear what you have to say about Patrick, have we?
Well, he's invited me on his show several times, but one of the reasons I stopped doing NLO in the first place was because, it all gets spun. It all sort of gets twisted into, one of the things that's tricky is not only does it get spun, but we always had this dynamic of like, oh, we're going to try to make this funny. And there was a point in the show where it stopped being about that. And like, I would be doing a bit, or I would be trying to make something funny. And then the fun thing was then to twist that to be like, oh, this is what he really thinks. And let's just sort of hammer it on that. So I just, I wasn't going to go on Patrick's show and tell my side of things or my point of view of things, because it's biased.
Let me fill people in.
And it's all going to get spun.
You left the Nobody Likes Onion show on bad terms. You left the Nobody Likes Onion show with his audience thinking not only are you a liar, a hack, a fraud, a cheat, the list goes on and on, but you left that show on bad terms, and it took Patrick a while before he realized he could openly pick on you without getting any really response from you, besides ignoring it. And then Patrick decided, let's do Josh Denny bingo night, where we listen to Josh Denny's podcast, and every time Josh says one of his cliched Joshisms, we check off the bingo, and he did all these little things that now he claims were his listeners doing it, that he had nothing to do with.
That's always the claim.
Yeah, because he's actually too pussy to take responsibility for the the things that he says.
Well, and he always says that the reason I don't say the name of his show or any of that is because I think I'm a big deal, and I think like, oh, I don't want the people that listen to my podcast to go find his out. I just want to say this. I don't ever want anybody to think that I need to continue to talk about Patrick to have a career. That was a pretty clear statement he made early on, was that he created Josh Denny, and that everything I've ever accomplished or anything I've ever done is credited to Patrick Melton. So I don't need to sell T-shirts with his face on them to pay my rent.
Which is something Patrick did with your face.
I don't have 100 shows of content on a bonus club that people pay me for with his ideas and his shit and his comedy that I sell to pay my bills. So I don't need Patrick to have a successful career as a comedian or whatever I decide to do. And that's the only reason I've never talked about it. I mean, because I just don't want anybody to go, look, 2 years after I left the show, I was still regularly talked about every episode. It's like, at what point do you move on and get back to making good fucking content?
So when you see me, all of a sudden Mike's turned. He's exposing Melton. He's going after the big one, the big whale. You see that. You see this stuff. What's the first thought in your head when you see Mike's turned? He's going after Melton.
It's what you do, Mike. It's like, let's not pretend that that's not the show. Yeah. The only problem I had is I would do Nobody Likes Onions. And, around 2010, I think it was maybe even later, when your show came back from hiatus and you had the HD cameras in studio and you had the Barmy firing on all cylinders, there was like this feeling of like, oh, well, Mike D's not real. He's not legit. He's just got a bunch of 14-year-olds that listen to his show, and it's just about trolling. But then over time, Nobody Likes Onions became fucking Red Bar Radio.
Excuse me? Wait a minute. What the fuck are you talking about? It became Red Bar Radio.
It was intended to emulate the exact same thing. So it became about picking on other people.
No. Take all that back. Let's erase that. Let's delete that. Let's try again. NLO sucks. Red Bar's great. In no way was NLO ever looking similar to Red Bar in any capacity.
Okay. Well, I
Delete
can tell you
shit.
from the conversations we had, that was the attempt, was to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak.
I was the Joneses.
Right.
And Nobody Likes Onions.
Yeah, and to continuously try to outdo what you were doing. I mean, those were the real conversations.
You're saying when you went to Patrick Melton's fucking disgusting house, which you live in right now.
No, this is before.
Oh, this is a different one. When you went to Patrick Melton's house to do a show, he would talk about Red Bar and how we have to keep up with it.
Have to be better than it. Have to be better.
He would mention this on more than one occasion.
Yeah, well, probably 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
I mean, let's not be crazy, but yeah, it was clearly a motivator. And at that time I hadn't even heard of Red Bar.
Yeah.
And then I think that was right before we came out and did your club.
So you're saying Patrick Melton, you're hearing it, has built a career off imitating me.
Well, I don't think that was the intent in the beginning. Like, I think back to the show in 2010 or whatever, when I first started doing it, where it was, we used to talk about how Tosh.0 was stealing ideas from NLO, because we would cover internet shit and we would make bits about it. And then we would come up with characters like Cecil. And like the last 2 years, that shit all went away. And it really just seemed about, okay, well, if Red Bar is riling up this group, then we got to find somebody that we can rile up and pick on. And so you see, it started with, that Ayana Dookie chick, and then it became Drew Garbanzo.
So you saw them doing similar campaigns to what Mike and Red Bar was doing, which was going after people, exposing them. However, there was a giant difference. His campaigns end nowhere. They fizzle out. He doesn't go after the right people. I go after the right people. Okay, the people I go after deserve.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the differences is you're not a stand-up comedian and you don't claim to be. When it came down to, well, wait a minute, this stand-up comedian is doing something that we should probably call out. If Patrick felt like it was somebody that could eventually be advantageous to him, he wouldn't fucking say shit. Like, would never call out. So, like, I have an episode coming up this week where I talk about this Beth Stelling thing that happened, and this is an old episode we recorded, but I just haven't put it up.
That girl that I beat the shit out of a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't watch it, but I will. I'll go back and check it out because But again, like there were several conversations where I would bring up stuff that comics in LA would do, and I go, "Why don't we cover that or talk about that?" And he's like, "Well, I'm trying to get in with them. They booked this show or they have this agent or whatever, and I don't want to fuck with that."
Yeah,
and so there were so many times where there were great opportunities to go out and like start wars that actually could have gotten good reviews, and instead of doing that, it was just turned on me, and it was like, oh well, we're just gonna pick on Denny. It's like, well, wait a minute, motherfucker, like I've helped make this good, and now I'm the fucking laughing stock. We're just gonna make every episode about nitpicking what I'm doing.
Sure.
And so that's why I was just like, I'm not gonna do it. Like if I don't get to be a part of the show and decide, hey, let's go talk about this or do this, then why would I continue to be a part of it?
So let's do something that I hope you have. I haven't really discussed too much with you, but the people at home, you were around this Melton. You've been in his studio. You've been plenty of fucking burgers have been eaten across from him. You've seen the pig eat.
Well, apparently every meal I ever bought was just me trying to buy friends.
Sure.
According to him.
Do you have any Melton secrets? Stuff that nobody knows about Melton but you?
Well, you revealed a couple that were kind of surprising to me that I'm surprised I didn't realize. Like, why on earth would you go to the trouble of creating your own crowdsourcing site when there are perfectly good crowdsourcing sites out there? And I catch a lot of shit for my crowdsourcing, but when it fails, it fails. And I take it on the chin and we regroup and we figure out what to do next. I don't create a site that allows me to manipulate the numbers to look like I'm raising funds that I'm not raising.
Sure, and those are opinions that I brought up, but do you have any Melton dirt that the world needs to hear from you? Not stuff that I've said, not stuff that's out there, but original Melton dirt.
I don't know. I feel like you've covered a lot of it, Mike. The one thing I will say is a big part of how Patrick was able to turn everybody against me was taking Facebook conversations or portions of Facebook conversations that I had with Luke and with Fritz and other people and kind of spin them in a way that made it look like I was shit-talking Patrick behind his back. But I could tell you the one with Luke, for instance, where Luke, and again, if it were me just talking shit, why would Luke have participated in that? And Luke not be responsible for participating in that, points. Right? It was sort of spun that way. But I will tell you, listeners reached out to me constantly and said, Patrick shits on all these little projects you're working on, and you've invited him to like, hey, come write episodes of this show idea I have with me. Come be a part of this. And there was never any intention for Patrick to participate in anything he didn't have total control over. And that's all I said to Luke. And Patrick and I got into huge arguments about this shit off the air when it came to the show. Like when he first went to, this is something a lot of people don't know, and I brought this up on the Mad Mike thing when people started crashing that show. And when he first went to Overdose and built the studio and had the HD webcams and the live Ustream broadcasts and all of that stuff, he pitched me like, hey man, this is going to be like, this could be Opie and Anthony big. And if we get to 1,000 subscriptions a month, you can quit working for Crocs and come do the show full time. And I will pay you and you'll get a portion of what we make and we'll be partners in this thing together. And that never fucking happened. Great. And nothing was more evident that that wasn't the case than when we went to New York, because I think for the New York show,
I gotta stop you there. I want to ask you this. Hold on. You've got a lot of it seems like you've got a lot of stuff you've been sitting on for years, which is wonderful. That's what we want to hear. But I want to ask you this. What do you think of Patrick Melton? One sentence.
I think he's a sad dude. I think he's an unfortunately depressed, sad dude.
Great.
And I think any opportunity he had at using his talent for good and getting better. Like, I'll say this.
Hold on.
In the 2 years he spent. Go ahead.
This brings me to the turn of my interview, where I now tell Josh Denny himself that he is actually worse than Patrick Melton. We hate you. You're an Uber driver. We played you, dog. Get the fuck off my screen, you fat bastard. We hate him. You're a loser, too. And that concludes my interview with Josh Denny. Now, was that cringe at the end, or was that cool what I just did? You know, I really didn't have too much time to plan it, but I couldn't listen to him go on and on and on like a fucking bitch. Jesus Christ. He did this to me. Mama. These people are all fucking all of them. Jesus fucking Christ. Get over yourself, you fucking bearded gnome. He's an Uber driver. Did you see how he took every opportunity to be like, and actually, and me? Somebody says that was cringe as fuck. Thank you. Very funny, they're saying. Okay. Well, I try, guys. I'm trying to bring you guys some broadcasting that just can't be done. This has only been...
Gino is flat broke. Gino ain't got no money. Flat broke. He's always looking so damn crummy. Flat broke Gino. Ain't nobody think he's funny. He can't move out of the projects 'cause Gino is flat broke.